Good morning. Hi, everybody. I'm Freedom. Good morning. Hi, Josh. I see you in the social stream. So if you want to just confirm for me that we have some good sound and image quality, we can get started. Looks like we have a good connection. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Freedom. You're watching me on OccupyFreedomLA on Ustream is my channel. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of the questions. I'm just looking here at the social stream on the screen. I would like a confirmation that you can see me and we're all good here. Looks good to me. I think sometimes there's a bit of a delay in the chat. So right on schedule, 9:30, we're live. Welcome to the Ustream training in partnership with the Huffington Post. And I just want to welcome all the contest winners from the Huffington Post, all the citizen journalists that are going to be at the conventions that won the contest to go and Ustream at the conventions. I will be there, and I look forward to seeing you all there and answering any questions that you have at the end of this interview. If you want to jump into the chat room and go ahead and ask questions. The hashtag to send questions is UstreamQ. Q is in question. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and send them through. And once I'm done with the Ustream interview questions, I can get to your questions. The first question is, what's your backstory? And how did you become a citizen journalist? Well, I was already a journalist when Ustream came into my life. I've been a freelance writer and blogger for many years. And I had just gotten into, within the last year, I'd gotten into video blogging. I've always been a photographer and a writer and a blogger. But I had just gotten into video when I was covering a big yoga festival. And the PR company gave me a video camera and asked me to do video as well. So that launched me into doing video interviews. And that was within the last year, before the Occupy movement started. So I was on that path already. So when Occupy started, I was doing a lot of blogging and photos, doing photo albums. And then it all started really with Spencer Mills, Oak for Show. Watching him live stream in Oakland was my first one, and was my first exposure to Ustream. And I will just never forget, you know, having my laptop in bed with me and being riveted to the screen and just watching things unfold and watching him get tear gassed and seeing him capture a homeless man being shot with a rubber bullet, just right there live, you know, on my computer screen. And that made a huge impression on me. And this was, you know, as the raids were going on in Oakland, and I was deeply involved with Occupy LA, and I realized that nobody was doing that in LA, and somebody needed to be doing that. Thanks for the feedback, Josh. I see your comments there. So I decided that somebody needed to be telling the story in LA. And so I got in touch with Ustream, or they got in touch with me. Actually, I was reaching out to, it was through Twitter, I have to say. Twitter has changed my life. And I first connected with Ustream through Twitter. And so we connected, and they set me up with an account, and I started telling the story from LA. So that's how the citizen journalism piece started. I was already a journalist, but this streaming added another dimension that really was citizen journalism, because it was really there telling the story that the mainstream media wasn't telling. What's the first thing a Ustream reporter should know? Okay, so I have two answers to that. The first one is that you're live. You have a hot mic on, and you need to be aware of that. So if you're giving sensitive information like phone numbers, addresses, personal information, there is a mute button on the screen, and you should really take advantage of it. And be aware that any conversations that you're having are being heard by the people that are watching your stream. So that's important to know. You know, we've all seen the shows where, you know, some politician or whoever has a hot mic and doesn't realize that their mic is on and they're having a private conversation. So that's number one. Be aware of that. The second piece is, I would say that you have to have a Twitter account. It's just integral to, specifically to Ustream and the citizen journalism piece, because it just helps the real-time information get out there so much more quickly. So a Twitter account is really critical, and I'm happy to answer more specific questions for anyone if you want to tweet at me. Again, Twitter is really a great way to reach me, and that's my handle is @OccupyFreedomLA. So anytime, any questions, just tweet at me, and I'll do what I can to support you and help you. So moving on to the next question. What's the best or most interesting story you've covered on Ustream? I'd say the most exciting story definitely was the raid on the camp at Occupy Los Angeles at City Hall back on November 30th. So I was in the park that night. I was a new streamer. At that time I was streaming on a Droid, and I hadn't figured out how to turn off my sound notifications, and I had this little bird chirping sound every time somebody tweeted me. So I was a newbie, inexperienced streamer at the time. But I streamed, I don't even remember how many hours, at least 15 hours straight. And at that time I was carrying a big car battery around on my back, because again, you know, it was brand new, and I had been streaming about 2 weeks at that point, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And hi guys, I see a couple of people I know jumping into the chat room. Glad you guys are here. Ask me questions. So it was definitely the raid at OccupyLA. I mean, I've been in many precarious situations and big news stories since, but that's, you know, at that point we had a couple of hashtags trending on Twitter worldwide, and quite literally the whole world was watching. I had at times up to 15,000 people watching my stream, literally from all over the world, and I was watching the social stream, and people from Japan and Australia and the Netherlands, and just literally I knew the whole world was watching, and they were very engaged in the social stream and getting the news out. And you know, I was there. I was in the center of City Hall Park when, you know, over 1,000 police officers stormed in, and just like the Trojan horse. City Hall was the Trojan horse. They came streaming out of the buildings. It was really scary, and I was right in the middle of it. And that was definitely, you know, the most exciting story to date for me. What else? What's your next question? Okay. When using the Ustream app on the mobile phone, what tips would you give a new Ustream reporter? That's such a longer conversation. I know this interview is meant to be brief, but there are so many tips and best practices, and you know, things that you don't really realize until you're out there in the field doing it. So I would say that you can really benefit from talking to the experienced streamers that have been out there doing it. So reach out to people on Twitter. On my Twitter, I have a list of streamers that you can go and you can follow that list and follow them. And you know, also watching streamers is a good way to learn. But I've done a couple of trainings that you can go look through my archives to find. They're pretty in-depth. Some curriculum that I developed with another streamer friend of mine, CrossX Bones. If you guys know him, Sky Adams. He's a good buddy of mine here in LA, and that's one of the cool things about streaming too, is you get to know other people that do it, and we become like the stream team, and we really work together, and we watch each other's back, and we support each other, and so there's a community of us that are out there doing it. So in terms of the tips, I mean, there's just so many things. One of the big ones would be get that Twitter account, because the whole point of live streaming is to be in real time. So anybody can record and upload to something to YouTube later, but the whole point of streaming is that it's real time and you're live. And if nobody's watching, you know, what's the point? You might as well just be recording. So again, you want to get that Twitter account to be getting the word out that you're live so that people can come and get engaged in the social stream. And I know that the social stream has a little delay, so I'm watching for your questions. Okay, let's see. Next question is, what equipment do you suggest? There's any combination. It's like there's a recipe though, and there are essential ingredients to the recipe. So one of them is obviously a camera. So you can use an iPod, you can use an iPod Touch, you can use an iPod Touch, you can use a camera. Ustream even provided Spencer Mills with the whole pack with the actual night vision camera and all of that. You can use an iPad. So there's a number of different devices that you can use. I'm using the iPhone 4, hopefully about to upgrade back to the iPhone 4S because mine was stolen back in January in Oakland. So I'm going to hopefully be back on the iPhone 4S soon. So the 3 essential ingredients are, 1 is the camera, 2 is transmission. So you need a hotspot. Clear Channel is the best deal going right now. I happen to have a Verizon, but Clear Channel is the best because it's unlimited and it's a flat $50 a month. So when I get rid of my Verizon, I'll probably move to a clear spot. So you need the camera, you need the transmission, and then absolutely essential is power. And again, there's several variations of that. I use the iSound. I saw those in the store right around Christmas, and I got a couple of those. And I know a lot of people that use the XPAL, the Energizer XP18000, and I haven't used one of those myself, but I'm looking to get one. And the iSounds I have been hit or miss for me. I have 2 right now, and currently they're not working very well. And my theory is because they've been in extreme heat with me through. I was in DC in January where it was really cold, and then sorry, I'm just reading the social stream here. And then a couple of times, like at NATO in May, and then also at the National Gathering in July, we were in 90, 100-degree weather. And then so the extreme hot and cold on the batteries, they don't seem to tolerate it very well. So the trick really is you want to have backup. Don't just go out with one battery. Especially if you're covering something, you know, really major or important. But everything we do is important. But so that's your recipe, and you can make any combination. And again, I have a couple of archive trainings where there's more specific information about what the options are. You can tweet questions at me anytime. But again, the recipe is the camera or the device, transmission, so a hotspot, and then power. So there's any variation of those 3, and I've just told you what I'm using. Okay. I'm just reading some comments here. Okay, I'm going to come back to some of those questions. I'm going to get through the, thanks everybody for logging in. Happy you're here with me and happy to answer your questions. I'm going to finish going through the Ustream interview questions first, and then I'm going to come back and scroll back through the social stream and answer some of the questions I'm seeing here. Let's see, what else? How do you approach people to interview? Usually, you know, you try to read people and see if they're open. I think a lot of people are used to streaming at this point and having, you know, when you're standing there with the camera like holding like this, people start to understand. A lot of people understand that you're live, or that they might ask, and it's a touchy subject, especially if you're covering an Occupy action. And you know, I cover Occupy everything since mid-November. You know, I've covered Occupy actions all over the country, but I also do other things. I do, you know, yoga festivals and environmental festivals, and you know, I'm an environmental activist and a yogini and all these things. So I cover, you know, sustainable lifestyle stuff, Occupy stuff. There's a lot of different things that I'm covering, but certainly in the Occupy interviews, you have to be careful, because certainly when somebody's wearing a mask, covering their face, it's because they're trying to not be recognized or to be anonymous. So you have to proceed with caution. If somebody's wearing a mask, I generally don't approach them for an interview. That's lessons that I learned the hard way. That's one of the it's one of the best practices tips that's on the list of the curriculum that Sky Adams and I have developed, which I'm happy to send to any of you if you just tweet me a request for it. But so generally, I just walk up to people, and one of the main questions I ask people is, why are you here today? Because I really like hearing, not only me, but it seems that the viewers really enjoy and appreciate hearing people's personal stories. So it's, what brought you here? Why are you here? What's important to you? So rather than just trying to come at a story with a particular angle, I want to be a platform for people to speak their truth and tell their stories and have their voices heard. So that's, I generally try to read people's body language and make sure that they're comfortable being interviewed. And you just never know what you're going to get. Sometimes people jump in front of your camera and, want to be in front of it, and you don't necessarily want to be highlighting what they're saying. So you just have to, artfully, move away from them. But you get some incredible interviews sometimes too. So, and in regards to interviewing, sound is really important. So when I'm interviewing somebody, I try to hold the camera as close to them as I can if we are in a place that has a lot of background noise, because otherwise you get all the background noise and you can't really hear what they're saying. And, again, I've learned through trial and error. And I tried an external mic as well, and the sound didn't improve for me. It was actually better with my iPhone sound. So practice, trial and error for that. But sound becomes really important when you're doing interviews. So if you go back and you look through my archives, you'll see that I've been, right up in people's faces, pretty close sometimes, because I'm trying to get the sound. And that's something to really keep in mind when you're doing interviews. And sometimes, it looks better on the camera if you're farther away, but if you can't hear them, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? So, okay, looks like we're on track with the questions. I'm just checking my social stream here, and this is great. On the iPhone, it just has a scrolling, so with the touch screen, I can just roll up and back. I can scroll through the questions here, so I'm just checking. Oh, you guys have some great questions. And I'm going to come back and answer them when I'm done with the Ustream questions. Okay, so next question is, if you could interview anyone, who would it be? What would you ask them? I thought about this, and the person that I think I'd most like to interview is the Dalai Lama. Not a political figure, but I believe that the man has a lot of wisdom, obviously. And I would love to spend some time in his energetic field and, really directly hear from him what he sees. I would ask him, how do we fix this? And do we need to fix this? And I would just love to have that one-on-one time with him. So for me, it would be the Dalai Lama, because I really believe personally, and this is one of the great things about being a citizen journalist too, is you don't have to answer to anybody else. You don't have a boss that's saying, oh, they don't want to hear your personal story. A lot of people want to hear the personal stories of the streamers, and and anybody can do it. You're not answering to anyone. You're totally independent. And that's one of the beautiful things about it. It is truly independent media. So it's your voice. If somebody doesn't like your voice, they can listen to somebody else, And if somebody says, oh, I don't like the way they're doing it, they can go out and do it themselves. So that's one of the cool things about it. So, for me, I see what's happening in the world right now literally as an evolution. A lot of people are using the word revolution, and it's that too. But for me, it's deeper than that. It's evolution. I really believe that humanity is awakening and moving out of the old paradigm and into the new. So, again, it's the Dalai Lama I'd love to have that conversation with. What's my next question? My archived interviews, just to answer that one question, they're all on my channel, which is OccupyFreedomLA on Ustream. You can see my archived if you just search live stream, or actually training. Probably if you search the word training, you'll find it. And I can also tweet those out later today if you watch my Twitter at OccupyFreedomLA is my handle on Twitter. What's my next question? How do you find the stories that haven't been reported by the mainstream media? Well, as I said, I've been a journalist before I started streaming, so I have a pretty big database, and I'm in touch with a lot of people already, and things that I'm being invited to cover things already because of that. But also, obviously, in the Occupy movement, there is a social media web that has been created by the movement that cannot be erased, and it is an incredible resource of information. It's an incredible source of information. So watching Twitter feeds, following the people who are doing things that you're interested in. Like I said, I'm an environmentalist and I'm a yogini, so I follow those people. I follow occupiers. I follow most of the major cities that still have strong occupies, so that I'm watching, and there becomes a buzz when you're engaged in it. People start inviting you once they recognize that you're a streamer. I get invites probably every day from people going, "Oh, we're doing this action. Can you come and cover this?" So a lot of it, happens that way. That, but until you get to the point where people know who you are and start inviting you, you can watch them and just follow the stories that you're interested in. Okay. I'm just reading the social stream as we go. That's part of the fun of you streaming. For me, it's my favorite part is the chat. Like I said earlier, it's you could just be videotaping and uploading to YouTube later, but the most exciting part about you streaming for me is the social stream and having people in the chat room and interacting. Like going back to the story of raid night. I was in the middle of South Plaza at City Hall, where we had, a stronghold. We had a bunch of grandmothers and different occupiers sitting down with their arms locked and, around the tents in the middle. And I had people in the chat room telling me, oh, there's 30 buses full of cops staging. They're on their way now. Oh, and they're at First and Main. And if you go back and you watch my archive, you'll see, I'm literally holding the camera and reading the chat stream and going, oh, wow, the cops are at First and Main now? Well, that's right there. Let me walk over there and see. And I literally start walking over there, and next thing you know, all the cops start running in. So it's not only engaging and a chance to actually share the experience in real time and bring the experience to people who can't be there in person, but it's also a source of intel. I mean, you have your viewers who have access to more information than you have. They're sitting there watching the news, they're watching Twitter, whatever their source of information is, and they're sharing that information with you. So your viewers actually become a source of intel. And another way that I've used the chat is, for example, on J20, Occupy the Courts in D.C., January 20th, I had some police officers that I thought were acting really out of line. So, another part of why I do what I do is to hold the police accountable for their misconduct, which happens all too often, sorry to say. But, I had some officers that I thought were acting inappropriately. So I had my viewers researching and finding the penal code and, helping me so that when I was directly face-to-face with the officers, I could be reciting their own, laws back to them and explaining to them. I try to always do it respectfully with the police. That's my perspective. That's the way I behave. And again, that's the beautiful thing about you streaming. Everybody can do it their own way. But I always choose to, as much as possible, interact respectfully with the authorities. It was great because my audience gave me the intel that I needed and the specific penal codes that they were violating. So the chat becomes really powerful that way. And one of my other favorite things is really bringing the story to the people that can't be there. I know I have a lot of viewers that are disabled or are, somewhere far away from where any Occupy encampments are, and people that really want to follow what's going on and know better than to rely on the mainstream media for information at this point. I could rant about that, but maybe it's not the right time. So, yeah, that's the question I was just kind of going on to. I hadn't even read it yet. How do you use the social stream on Ustream and engage your viewers? Like I was just talking about that. So really inviting the audience to research things for you, to give you intel about where other people are. Sometimes the viewers help us find the other streamers. For example, if I'm in an action with Cross-X Bones with Sky, and my battery dies and I need a new battery, I can say, into the chat stream, because generally people who are watching watch several channels at once is what I found. So I can say, hey, where's Sky right now? I need to find him. I know he has a battery for me. And people can say, oh, he's at the corner up First and Main right now. And then I can connect with him. So as a source of intel, and also sharing the experience, and people are watching and, having feedback. And again, it's bringing the experience, personally, directly to the people who can't be there for whatever reason, if it's financial reasons that they can't get to an action, if they're disabled, if they're maybe a single mom at home with the kids, people who care about what's going on, who want to know, who want to be engaged and can't be there. And so I really appreciate being in the position to be able to bring that story to those people. Let's see. What has it meant to you to be a citizen reporter on Ustream? Well, I've been talking about that a little bit as we've been going on. And it's just kind of the last thing I said, really. I appreciate being the eyes and ears, for people that can't be there. And the other thing is, okay, I'm going to do this, touch on this a little bit for a minute now, just in terms of mainstream media. I've been an independent journalist for a while, before I started streaming. So the Occupy movement has really educated me, and obviously millions of others, on lots of things, but one of them being the control of the corporate media. So when we look at the big six media, we understand that these reporters have editors, and that streaming citizen journalism is the voice of the people. It's on the ground. It's live. One of the things that I say often, is a bit of a tagline that I use, is bringing you the uncut, unfiltered story from the front lines of the evolution, because that's what it is. We're really bringing the truth to people. It's transparency. It's the truth. I can't tell you how many times I've been at actions and that you have the mainstream media there. I remember very clearly at one action, it was a teachers union. There were about 4,000 people out, and I remember seeing this reporter going around and interviewing different people, and she said, okay, I got enough for my package now. And like, that's a cut, that's a wrap. And I saw the piece later, and it was a minute and a half on the evening news, and she had been there for hours, and so had I. And so she did a minute and a half soundbite that was put together by editors. So people are like, what is the message that we want to put out there? How do we want to frame this? How do we want to package this story? Literally, package is the word they use. So obviously, that's not getting people the whole truth and the transparency. That is through somebody else's perspective. And so is streaming to some degree, because you're editing every time you choose where to point your camera and who you choose to interview and whatever. But there's things that can't be hidden through live stream. Like I said, the first thing I said, be careful. You are live. You have a hot mic. Everybody can hear you. It's streaming live to the internet. And until you can get back to a computer, you can't hide it, because on the back end of Ustream, you can actually set things to private if there is something that, for whatever reason, you don't want to have live. But at the moment, as soon as you turn your stream off, it's archived. So it's not only are people watching it live, but as soon as the stream goes down, it's archived and it's on your channel for anyone to see. So it's important to understand that. So, Jello Biafra's quote always comes to me, which is, don't hate the media, become the media. So that's what we're doing. And I really have a vision of, there being thousands and thousands of streamers out there. And that's why I've worked on the curriculum and the training, with Sky Adams. And I want to see 100 streams every time there's an action, every time there's a police line, every time there's police misconduct, every time there's a politician speaking, whatever it is. I want to see 100 streams on that person, because it creates accountability. They can't hide from the truth. When you have a stream that's running, there's just so many examples. But what it is a nonviolent tool for the revolution or the evolution that it is a tool, and it's a way to create accountability in a system that has very little accountability right now. So I'm very excited to see this growing and to encourage anybody that wants to be live streaming to do it, because it's a very powerful nonviolent tool that we can use to help create really positive change. So those are the questions from Ustream. So now I'm going to go back through. I'm going to go in order that they came in, and I'm going to answer your questions. You're welcome. You're welcome to all the people that are thanking me. It's so my pleasure. Let's share the information and get it out there. Okay. Courtney, kiss me. Hi, Courtney. Have you been in any situations that were scary to stream? Yeah. Yes, I have. Several times. And that's part of the rush, you know, is being there on the front lines when things get crazy, like I was just talking about earlier, being in the middle of the City Hall Park when the officers came in and raided the camp. That was my scariest moment until I was at NATO, and several times I almost got pushed through a plate glass window. I got scraped against a rusty fence. I came within probably an inch of being beaten by a billy club. I was nearly trampled, suffocated. NATO was really intense. And then just recently I was in Anaheim, and you know, a small march started, and the police came out on horses, and then suddenly there were a dozen horses there for crowd control, and I was close to being, you know, trampled. So it gets scary, but I do have a promise. You know, I'm a single mom, and I have a promise to my daughter that I won't get arrested, and I won't get hurt. So I really, it's a fine line sometimes in staying back enough to keep myself safe, and being close enough to really record the action. And a lot of it goes on instincts, and you know, it's really important to be physically well, and you know, have your gas mask and have your helmet, and you know, be hydrated, and make sure you eat before you go, make sure you use the bathroom before you go. Take care of your body so that when you're in those situations, you know, your brain is functioning properly at maximum potential, so that you can make smart, quick decisions. Okay, so I'm just going to read some more here. Yeah, stream team. Do you have any specific tactics to keep yourself safe as a streamer? Zena? I'm trying to read the names. It's a little bit hard to see the names that are in colors, but I think your name is Zena. Yeah, like I was just talking about, I try to also have a buddy, especially if I know I'm going into an action that could be precarious, and there's maybe a heavy police presence expected. I try to have a buddy, which is literally somebody who is assigned to watch my back specifically. And, you know, that helped me in Anaheim. I did pick up a great buddy who literally pulled my backpack and yanked me backwards when the horses were getting close. And that's something, if you can get a buddy that's really dedicated to you and will follow you around, that's a really good way to help keep you safe, because you're often, you know, you're looking at this stream, and you try the best you can to keep your eyes on everything that's going on, but it's important to watch in the camera to keep your frame, because sometimes sometimes people don't really look through the camera, and a lot of the times you'll see they're looking at the ground or people's feet or chest, and they're not really composing the frame where they have people's faces. And so I like to try to keep looking in the camera as much as I can to continue framing it. And again, I have a photography background, so composition is something that is maybe more important to me than some, but it's something that I pay a lot of attention to. So therefore, it's helpful to have other eyes, people who can be watching behind you, to either side of you. A buddy, I would say, is really critical when it comes to bigger actions. And the other things are, like I just said, you know, really taking care of your body. I drink superfood shakes, you know, and I bring, you know, vegan power bars with me, and things that, you know, can keep me going. Make sure you have plenty of water with you. And take care of your body so that you can stay strong. I mean, that's a really important part of keeping yourself safe. And then all the equipment, you know, the gas mask. If you don't have a gas mask, you want to have a rag that you can put over your face with, you know, vinegar, or you might want to have Maalox mixed with water with you so that if pepper spray or tear gas is used, you can help dilute the effects of that. So those are some things to keep with you. And, you know, again, if you talk to Cross-X Bones, he's really good with this. He's got the full-on gear. He's got the elbow pads, the knee pads. I mean, all these things about keeping yourself safe. So there's more information on that. Okay, next question is, where can we find your archive tutorials? Okay, I think I said that earlier, but my channel is OccupyFreedomLA on Ustream, and I have them there. They're also on my website, actually, and I have a Facebook page. I've put them on my Facebook, but you probably have to dig for them there. They're on my website, which is OccupyFreedomLA.org. And if you go to the videos page, they are there as well. That might be the easiest, most direct place to find them. Or you could go through my Ustream archives and just search the word stream or training, and you'll probably find it. You like my Dalai Lama answer, Josh? That's cool. Let's see. I'm just looking for other questions. Yes, I will be at the conventions. I'll be at Tampa, in Tampa, and then I'll be in Charlotte. So normally I'm not on camera that much. Normally, if you've been watching my stream, you know my voice more than my face, but this is me. So of course, please come say hi, introduce yourself if you're going to be there. Ask me anything, you know, if we can make time, I'll be happy to sit down and, you know, go through, answer whatever questions you have, of course. And connect with me beforehand on Twitter. My handle is OccupyFreedomLA. So tweet at me, introduce yourself, let's get to know each other so when we get there, we're not strangers. Okay. Let's see. You're welcome. Okay, interesting question. Do you see any downside to live streaming? Good question. Good question. Let's see. Downside. Well, I really believe in the truth and the transparency of it. So a downside I would say is sometimes you can capture something, somebody doing something incriminating that could get them in trouble, and they may be somebody that is, you know, on your team, so to speak. So that gets tricky. That gets tricky because, I don't know, I'm an activist and I'm a journalist. So I'm not going to say that I'm neutral. I'm biased. I'm definitely on the 99% side and not the 1% side. So that's the story, you know, that I'm telling it from that perspective, and, you know, I'm very clear about that. But the downside could be that you could, you know, inadvertently catch somebody doing something, something incriminating. So the thing about that is what you can do, you know, actually there's really not much you can do, because I think at this day and age, people need to understand that there are cameras everywhere. And if it's not you streaming them, it's the police. So we're being watched, we're being filmed. It's just part of our reality right now. So hopefully people can be smart enough and sensitive enough to that they don't do incriminating things in front of your camera. So that's the only downside I would say to live streaming. I'm going to think about that a little bit more. Offhand, I can't think of anything else, because the upside is so huge, because again, it's just bringing the uncut, unfiltered story, you know, from the front lines of the evolution, as I say. So it's changing the world, and it's telling a story that's not being told by the mainstream media, and it's just such an amazing thing that, like, how Occupy, I think to a large degree, has put live streaming on the map, because I think it drew a really huge audience and drew a lot of attention to citizen journalists, and And it's giving us the opportunity now, and it's really up to all of you watching to take that opportunity and run with it and really learn the tools and practice them and take it out there. And, you know, you have your camera with you all the time. I mean, there are reporters that they're called stringers, right, that just sit around listening to the scanners waiting for something to happen. Oh, there's a fire down the street. Oh, there's an accident over here. I think about it all the time. I always have my camera with me. And if I saw fire down the street from my house, you know, maybe 2 months ago, and I was thinking, wow, maybe I need to be streaming this. And if there's an accident, it's great to have, you know, to be there and to have that live coverage that can maybe be used to help somebody later, or not. But you're there and telling the story, and it's an important role that we're playing, and not relying on the mainstream media who's you know, answering to a specific agenda and a paycheck and an editor who's telling the story the way they want it told. So it's an important role that we're fulfilling in it, and I really invite you all to step up and to be a part of the solution. Citizen journalism is a part of the solution because it's telling the truth about what's happening. Okay, anybody else? Oh, I'm just reading. Okay. How can we make sure that transparency doesn't lead to a scary society with millions of cams? Sorry to break it to you, but we're already there. I don't know if you've been following the Trapwire story. If you haven't, check that on Twitter. Search it, Trapwire, #Trapwire. We're already there. Big Brother is watching. And so the beauty of this medium of citizen journalism and live streaming is that we're the answer to that. We also have our own documentation. We're telling our own story. We're able to hold people accountable for their misconduct. So that's one of the parts that I really enjoy, you know, exposing and helping enlightening people to the fact that, you know, the police don't always act. They don't always act in the people's interest. They don't always protect and serve the people. And that's one of the stories that, you know, that I tell with my stream. You know, sometimes they do. And if you want to go stream, you know, the cop rescuing the kitten out of the tree, you can tell that story. You know, I'm there to, you know, and that's the perspective that a lot of people have. So I'm just there as a witness and documenting truth and transparency. So there are cameras all over the place already. I'm sorry to tell you. So we might as well be out there too, telling the story through our eyes. And you know, you can stream and not narrate anything and just let the viewers try to figure things out. A lot of the times you can't see enough on the stream, so I tend to narrate and say, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. For example, I'm seeing the officers putting their helmets on now. I'm seeing the officers unbolstering their billy clubs now, because from across the street or the distance you may not be able to see that. So I tend to narrate that and just describe the facts that are unfolding in front of the camera. Oh, you're watching from Slovenia. Cool. I love it when that happens. The whole world is watching. Kazarian, the Barbarian. How you doing? That's my friend from Spiritualution there in the chat room. Can you speak about mods and getting the word out on Twitter? Yeah, that's a great question, is moderators, and that's something really important. Because we have a little problem that we like to call trolls, which are people that come into the chat room. There's lots of theories about who they are and why they do what they do. I'm not going to really go there, but the fact is that there are people that like to jump into the chat room to kind of sabotage and bring down the vibration of what's happening, or misinform people, create undue panic, things like that. So those are people that you need help when you're out there in the field. So that comes in the form of moderators, which are people that are have joined your crowd on Ustream. So the first thing, that if somebody wants to be a mod for you, they need to join your crowd on Ustream, and then you have the ability on the back end to enable them to be a moderator, which means that they can ban someone, and there are a couple of different ways that can be done. They can be banned temporarily, they can be banned permanently. But sometimes when you know, if you have several hundred people watching, and you have a couple of trolls in the chat room, and they're really good at siphoning the energy and the attention away from what's going on, and you know, say derogatory things and whatnot. And it's really helpful if you have somebody who's a moderator who can help control that. And you know, I have a rule in my chat room that no capital letters, no abusive language, no name calling. So if I see people doing that, you know, generally I have another phone with me that I can use to be texting while I'm live, so I can, if I'm in contact with my moderator via text, I can text them and say, hey, boot, you know, troll number 29, and you know, ban them because you know they're breaking the rules of my stream. And usually, if I see it happening, I'll actually address that person on the stream, and I'll say, you know, that's not allowed here, and I'll recite the rules, and I'll also remind the other people, the other viewers, and especially the people in the chat room who are getting kind of sucked into that energy. I'll remind them to not feed the trolls, which means basically don't reply to them. Just, you know, if you ignore them, they might go away. But if you engage with them, you're giving them exactly what they want, and you're just egging them on. So I'm lucky to have a handful of moderators, but they're not always free. So the more moderators, the better. And they want to be, you know, you want it to be somebody that you know and trust, that you've, you know, has maybe been a viewer on your stream for a while, or a friend who you can count on. And, you know, there's a couple of ways that they're helpful. One is getting rid of the trolls, but also if something should happen to you, you know, if your stream goes down, or if, you know, if they see you getting approached by a billy club and suddenly your stream goes down, they can be putting out the word to, you know, see if you're safe, to get you help if you need it. You know, if you happen to be in a remote area when something happens like that, you know, it's helpful to have people that, you know where you are or have been, and that can just help assist you. Let's see. I'm just seeing what other questions you have. Mods and censorship. I just talked about that a little bit, but what are your views on mods and censorship? Yeah, I just talked about mods, but censorship is something, is an interesting conversation, and it's something that is really individual to each streamer. Like I said, you know, when you're making a choice where to point your camera and who to interview, and you know who you're giving the attention of the stream to, you're editing. You know, it's just, you can only point your camera in one direction at a time, so you're automatically editing. Censorship is different than editing. Censorship is, you know, for example, I had one person come up to me one time. I was streaming on Skid Row. Actually, we're doing Occupy Skid Row action, and somebody came up in front of my camera and didn't like the behavior that was going on in the background, and said, "Are you streaming this now?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, this isn't who we are. This isn't what we're doing. You should stop streaming." And I said, you know, I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm narrating it that way because what I had been saying is, you know, I don't recognize this person. They're not normally here, and I don't know why they're behaving that way, and this isn't what it normally looks like here, but here's what's going on right now." And, you know, that's part of the transparency, and that's part of, you know, what streaming is about for me. I'm not there to censor and to edit, but I will frame it, and I will give it a fair and honest and transparent context, like, you know, like the example that I just gave. So I see Liberty, hi. But there are cases when you can turn the camera off to avoid incrimination. That's true. That's true. You can do that. But one of the reasons that I stream is for truth and transparency. So again, like I said earlier, I really encourage people to not do incriminating things in front of, you know, cops and cameras. Oh, Slovenia, I love you too. You're welcome. What else? Okay, looks like I've got through all the questions. Anybody else want to jump in right now? Oh, I've been going way over time. I see we're coming up at 50 minutes, and yeah, this was supposed to be like 15 to 30, so I talked too much. I love you all. Again, go to my website, OccupyFreedomLA.org. That's where you can link to all my social media, my ustream, my Tumblr, my blog, my Facebook, my Twitter. Twitter is my preferred means of communication. You can also get my email on my website, but it's also occupyfreedomnow@gmail.com. So feel free to email me any questions. And if you're going to be at the conventions, please come up to me and say hi. One more question. Let's see. Don't feed the trolls. That's right, Liberty. Liberty is one of my awesome moderators who gets in the chat room and helps to control the trolls. Thank you for that. I'm going to say for the last question about updates on Occupy here in LA, go ahead and tweet at me, and let's do that offline because this is really about training for citizen journalism, and I'm happy to answer that question. But just go ahead and tweet at me or email me, and we can talk about it there. So I love you all. Thank you for tuning in. It is so my pleasure to be here with you, and I want to thank Ustream for all the support and you know, promoting my channel and just helping get the truth out about what's going on and really supporting me in really growing into being a strong citizen journalist. It's really my honor to be in this role here and bringing you the story from the front lines of the evolution, like I like to say, uncut, unfiltered. I'm Freedom, and you're watching Occupy Freedom LA on Ustream. Have a great day.